Hello everybody, in this video we will talk about battery usage and how you can maximize the life of your battery and different ways of setting it up. So this is obviously for people who have hybrid systems. Hybrid systems is defined just as a solar system that has a battery. We're going to talk about lithium batteries. I do not talk about gel batteries or the old technology in these videos. That's a whole nother story. We're going to focus on the lithium batteries that are part of systems like Alpha and Huawei and the LFP batteries. Now, everybody knows that batteries have a limited lifetime. They're not going to last forever. They might in the past or close to forever, but as of now, the best batteries have a lifetime of a little bit more than 20 years, which is certainly very, very good compared to just a few years ago. But we should still think about how we set up our batteries to charge and discharge. So first I want to define a discharge and a charge as a cycle. That's what we call a cycle. And every battery has a limited amount of cycles that it can use over its lifetime before it starts to get degraded and you will lose efficiency. And then at the end, you will not have much left in terms of use potential. So how do we maximize the cycles and how do we maximize the lifetime? First of all, it's obvious to people who have used phones and other kinds of batteries in different kinds of equipment that if we use them in terms of charge them and discharge them a lot on top of the battery, let's say that we charge every time that the battery comes to 80%, we charge it up to 100, or even more that we use it in a charged position all the time. Over time, that's going to degrade the battery. Now, exactly how much is very difficult to quantify because that depends on different technologies and other factors. But it's common sense with these batteries that it's better to discharge completely, at least to the level that is recommended. That's what I mean with a complete discharge, and then to charge it up completely. So I'll give you some examples here. Like when we set up a hybrid system, we can set it up to use the battery in daytime as is needed. Now let's start with the on-grid systems where you have the grid to support. You can set up the battery to discharge when the solar panels don't have enough to cover the load. So in this case, if we are talking about maximizing lifetime of the battery, we don't want the battery to do that in daytime because we want to increase the lifetime of the battery, and if it's going to charge and discharge a lot throughout the day, it's going to use up a lot of the cycles that we were talking about, and it's basically going to use the battery in a not so efficient way. And the other way to set it up is to set it up that instead of using the battery to support when the panels have not enough energy, is to use the grid. That's the other way. So I can show you on the alpha system. This is our system, by the way. Let's see, we can see some different ways of setting it up here. We go to charge and discharge settings, and then we can see here that we have set it up to only discharge from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. and we have a discharge cutoff at 10. So I'll explain all these numbers now. Different kinds of brands, they have similar settings, so it's not only Alpha that has this, and not all systems have all the settings I'm going to use, but most systems have something similar. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that during the day, when the solar panels don't have enough energy, it will use the grid. It will not is not allowed to use the battery before 9 p.m. And that is exactly because of that we want the battery to only have one discharge and one charge for a 24-hour period. We don't want it to, up and down all the time, because that's going to shorten the lifetime. Now you might think, oh, why do you do like that? Because that's why you have solar, so you don't have to use a grid. But the thing is, if you have sized the panels properly, when the grid supports in daytime, it's only going to support very little. It's only because sometimes when you open something that uses a lot, for example, a shower or a stove, you don't want it to use a battery at those times. You want it to use the grid. So even though it's not using a lot, it is using something sometimes. So we don't want it to use the battery in those times, and want it to wait until 9. So why do we choose 9 and not 6 or 7? So here's the thing. If you have a lot of battery, you can certainly put it at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. The less battery you have, the later you can set this and still have a lot of battery left if you have a power cut. Okay? That's an important point to understand, that one. That because I do not have enough battery to cover the whole night and leave battery for a power cut, I will want to use the grid from sunset to 9. So that comparatively, I will have more battery left at 3 a.m. versus if I started discharging at sunset. So the point is only to have power for power cuts in the battery. That's the only difference here, because I want to have, at 7 o'clock, I want to be as close to 10 as possible, because that saves me the most money. Okay? So you can set it up like this according to battery size. Now everything is of course related to the load that you have. If it's not about the absolute size of the battery, it's about the relative size of your battery in relation to your load. Okay, I hope you guys understand what I mean. The point is that every system is different in terms of how much battery you need to be able to do different timings here. For me, this is perfect setting. If your load is less, you can start at 8 or 7, If your load is more, you have to start later. Or buy more battery power. But because batteries are so expensive now, I chose to stay a little bit on the small side on the batteries and instead use the grid more. Now, obviously, on off-grid systems, you do not have a choice like this, but you do have a choice in terms of generator. So you have similar scenarios, but a little bit different for off-grid. We're not going to talk too much about off-grid in this video. I'm just mention that you have similar considerations there. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can use when you make a plan for your hybrid system, and you can maximize different goals, like you can maximize lifetime, and you can maximize amount of power in the battery for the power cuts, but at the same time use the battery every night. We're probably gonna get more into this, but this is just an introduction, so we can talk more about discharge and charge, and obviously this will change as new technologies and new batteries come on the market, but at least now you have a small introduction.